We're getting down with Episode 8, a prime problem of Season 2 of Generation 1 of the Transformers. Let's get into this episode. This is Energon Entries. Welcome to Energon Entries, everybody. As always, this is your host, Matt Frates. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope that you have been enjoying the deep dive we've been doing into Season 2. I've been having a lot of fun, and this week we're going to get into an episode called A Prime Problem. It is Episode 8, the way I am watching it, and let's get into the episode recap. The episode begins with the Decepticons discovering a crevice emitting strange energy readings. Megatron sends in an auto scout to investigate, revealing dangerous coralonium crystals that destroy electronic circuitry. The Decepticons decide to trick the Autobots into the crevice and set up a temporary base. Optimus Prime and the Autobots arrive, but are ambushed, and Prime is knocked off a cliff by Laserbeak. Megatron creates a remote-controlled clone of Optimus to lead the Autobots back to base. The clone's odd behavior raises suspicions, but before they can determine the real Prime, Teletran 1 reports increased activity from the crevice. The Autobots head out, fall into a Decepticon ambush, and witness a clone of Starscream fighting the Optimus Prime clone, which convinces them the clone is real. Just as the Autobots are about to be led into the crevice, Windcharger reveals the truth. The episode ends with Ironhide declaring the clone a fake, the Autobots destroying it, and rescuing Spike, who is saved midair by Powerglide. Alright, so Megatron and crew have what they called Earth scanners, and that's going to help them find energy. And they do this a lot. Their supercomputers seem to be a little bit smarter than the Autobots' Teletran 1, just an observation. And Soundwave, as they find this crevice and they see these crystals, and there's kind of a really fun little Aurora Borealis effect. It doesn't look as smooth as it probably would today, but for the 80s, I'm sure that was revolutionary at the time. But Soundwave has an auto scout that comes out of his tape deck, and I think this is the first time in any of the episodes that we've seen anything other than either Rumble or Frenzy or Ravage or Laserbeak come out of Soundwave's tape deck. Pretty cool. It doesn't last very long. It obviously gets destroyed, but just something new from Soundwave there. And the Decepticons seem to find a lot of unstable energy. Now, on the Earth today, there isn't a lot of these energy places that we find, and we seem to be always starved for energy. So the Decepticons seem to find all of these amazing energy sources, and all of them seem to be unstable. And in every episode so far, that hasn't ended well. So I'm anticipating as I'm watching this that this is not going to end very, very well. And I think it's funny that Megatron also created this base that looks like rocks. This was obviously premeditated. Where have they been building this? Why have the Decepticons not been found by the Autobots? And how did he make it to look like every other rock there? This is, again, a very, very intricate plan that he has. And I wonder what the end game is for Megatron. It seems like his plans have become more and more, I don't want to say outlandish, but they certainly are getting less direct. So the Autobots show up to see all this energy that they've been seeing, all the readings that they've been seeing, and they once again find themselves outnumbered by the Decepticons. And this happens like in every episode. And I know that these episodes are supposed to be in a vacuum. I know that there's no overarching story, at least not one that I can find. But maybe, just maybe, can the Autobots get a little bit smarter? And I feel like I say that every episode, but the writers back then, I really wish they'd made them a little bit more competent, because they don't seem to be that way. And they never, ever, ever consider that the Decepticons are going to be there when they arrive somewhere. They should be thinking about this a little bit more. And like I said, these plots that Megatron is coming up with to get the Autobots cloning an Optimus Prime, I mean, it's a crazy good strategy in which he's able to use this technology and make a clone, and controlling him remotely is a great idea also, with the headset, everything. I mean, it's a mostly flawless plan outside of the fact that Megatron himself doesn't really speak like Optimus Prime and didn't really think about how Optimus Prime would sound to the other Autobots. However, the Autobots see this Optimus Prime, now they have two of them, and Teletran 1 is going to check them out. But beforehand, one of the Autobots says, when was the last time Teletran 1 was checked out? Folks, Teletran 1 is repaired every episode, so that thing gets checked out just about every episode, so it should be on its game because that is in need of repair and gets repaired every single time. So a lot of continuity there. I make fun of Teletran 1 a lot, but I thought that was actually pretty darn funny. And in all of this, they're talking about the Ark. Outer perimeter defenses are going off. And apparently it's to detect other Autobots. Like they say, wow, everybody's in the base. What do you have a perimeter alarm for if not to detect people who are not part of your base? And it's like the Autobots, their defenses are just terrible. The Teletran 1 can't tell when a Decepticon is in there. And these defenses that they've created don't seem to work at all. But Megatron is there and he's controlling Optimus Prime, and he starts planting the seed via this headset and everything about the Optimus Prime, the real Optimus Prime, being a Decepticon imposter. How long do you think he'd been there before he planted that idea? Like, this is the basis of his idea, is that he's creating a Decepticon clone that is a plant, and he's going to plant the seed of this idea in the Autobots like from the get-go. This is not really smart to me because now the Autobots are like, wow, it could be a Decepticon. Instead of just looking at it for what it is at face value, Megatron is kind of seeding the doubt here, and that didn't seem to be a good idea. But I like that they're going to do this like Prime versus Prime. Hey, let's have both Optimus Primes sort of take part in these sort of Transformer Olympic games to figure this out. And the first thing to do is a race. And in my mind, I'm like, how the hell is a race going to decide which one is the real one? What does finishing first do to help you determine who it is? Because they're the same exact truck, same exact vehicle. I just don't understand. And also, how did Megatron control Optimus Prime in truck mode? Like, I understand making a clone of Optimus Prime to look like the robot form and maybe even transform, but how does he control him? Because the mind control obviously can control some movements of like arms, legs, and things. And I see that Megatron has it on his head. But to be able to drive him is pretty incredible, and that just shows that Megatron really thought through this plan. After all this happens and they decide, wow, we don't even know who the real Optimus Prime is, and they need to go out and stop the Decepticons. And I thought this was a very, very small amount of character building, but Ironhide looking at both Optimus Primes and basically saying, we don't know which one of you is real, I'm going to be giving me orders here. That's true leadership right there. Now, a better leader probably would have said, you two stay here, because we don't know. But to be able to step up to what you know is your leader, somebody who you consider a friend, and say, look, this is too unstable, I'm going to take over for right now. There was no ego involved. It all had to do with him wanting to make sure that the real Optimus Prime was there, and they didn't know who it was. And so I thought that was actually, again, a great moment of leadership. Go over to the Decepticons here. So Starscream is asked to sacrifice himself because the Autobots need to see that Optimus Prime kills Starscream. And he's so hysterical over this because he doesn't realize that Megatron has him in mind with this. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how could you not? You've tried to take over the Decepticons every episode. Megatron should have killed you by now. But instead, you think, wait, why would I sacrifice myself? And Starscream saying, I was the pride of the Cybertronian Academy. That is such a thing that Starscream would say. I mean, he did say it, but it's like one of those things where it's somebody who you know talks about themselves a lot and thinks that they are greater than anything else. And I just think that is hysterical. And once they make this clone, after Starscream has like a fit, like a toddler fit, they have to go back and get him, pull him back, kicking and screaming. And Megatron's like, you didn't even listen to me. Give me a second. We're going to make a clone of you. Duh, we made a clone of Optimus Prime. And Starscream says, I wonder if he will be as brave as I am in battle. Starscream literally just fled the base because he didn't want to give his life for the Decepticon cause. I'm not sure if that's bravery or not, but I can tell you one thing. I don't think Starscream is brave at all. Have we ever seen Starscream be brave? He always tries to undercut Megatron. He always tries to sabotage to get what he wants. That's not bravery at all. He's actually probably one of the most cowardly Decepticons, and he would totally flee a battle if it meant he was going to live and it benefited him. Spike is there during all of this, which again begs the question, why are they taking the humans to this? And also, Spike normally gets himself in trouble. But in this particular part of the episode, he notices the rock base, and he kind of comes in handy because he says, hey, wait a minute, something is not right here. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking, okay, Spike, getting a little bit smarter. I know he's a kid. And wouldn't you know it, bam, right there, he ends up getting captured in the base, and I'm like, that's the Spike that we all know and love. The guy who just cannot help himself from getting captured. So just when I think he's turning a corner, boom, right back to where he was. And of course, now you have 2 clones, and I'm thinking, how many helmets does Megatron have? Does he have infinite? Were they planning on making a lot more clones? These are parts of his, his general planning that I'm not really privy to. And in one of these skirmish scenes here, we have a random Warpath sighting. Now remember, we saw all of these new Autobots in Dinobot Island. Warpath was one of them. He's a tank. All of a sudden, there he is. That's the only time we see him. It's the only time we have seen one of these robots since Dinobot Island. Thus far, this episode had all OG robots on this time. But now you have these clones. You have Starscream, you have Optimus Prime, and I said that they're both being controlled by Megatron and Starscream. There's a lot of questions I have, but their idea to just stop the battle and have a duel between Prime and Starscream, to me, I'm thinking, why are the Autobots not onto this? This seems really, really strange. Why would Starscream, who's somebody who doesn't have a brave bone in his body, stop something to do something so noble as a duel? And they didn't think it was weird at all. No idea. So now all this is happening, and the real Optimus Prime is there, and he's trying to stop them from going in the crevice. And I think he said Trailblazer, and I laughed so hard because Peter Cullen is a professional. He's a professional voice actor, and even back in this day, he was the utmost professional at what he did. And I would like to think that if he did something wrong, he would go back and retake it. How lazy are these people, or how fast did this have to happen for Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, to have a misstep in even saying the wrong name of an Autobot? I just think it's great, but also in the confines of this episode, if you're Optimus Prime, you're the real one, and you're trying to convince the Autobots that you are the real one, getting the names wrong of your troops, not the best way to do that, just pointing that out. However, the Prime clone not wanting to save Spike ending up being the dead giveaway is absolutely perfect, because as I've talked about a lot here and we've pointed out, Optimus Prime and the Autobots will always go out of their way to save the humans, even to the detriment of their own plans. And you have to think that they would save the humans, even if that meant that they would lose Cybertron. So Megatron obviously hasn't picked up on this enough to make sure that his plan includes this, because he's done it to the point where he's used humans as human shields, but in this case, he's not thinking ahead enough, and that was the dead giveaway. And then at the end, we get a Power Glide sighting. He saves Spike, who's falling out of the air because, of course, he got captured, and of course, he needs to be saved. And here's Power Glide. So we have Warpath and Power Glide, who we've seen twice now, and we haven't seen them since that episode. Makes me wonder if this is when the floodgates are going to start opening to seeing some of these Transformers more and more often. Overall, the episode had a ton of battle scenes, and I will say a pretty decent plan by Megatron. Outside of the fact that he hadn't thought it through enough, I think the idea was good. I think the episode kind of kept your attention. There was a lot of battle scenes, a lot of what felt like generic battle scenes, and that's fine. And while there was energy to be found in this episode, Megatron's plan really didn't have to do with getting that energy. He knew it was unstable, so he was trying to get rid of the Autobots, because really, in the end, if he does get rid of the Autobots, he can take the time that he needs to find that energy. So I thought this episode actually was a little bit different than others, because it didn't follow the same formulaic model that we've seen, where it's like find energy, big battle, Autobots win in the end. And again, when you see some of these new Autobots randomly, it's mostly been the OG crew. Hopefully we will see more in the future. Overall, it was a fine episode. It, to me, didn't have a ton of character development outside of one or two things. It was really a standard issue episode, although it did flip the script a little bit. Have you watched this episode recently? What did you think of it? Get in touch with me. mattyicemedia@gmail.com is the email address to get in touch with me. Love to hear from people who are watching the show. If you have left a review, I want to say thank you. And just for overall listening to this show, a big thank you. Hope you're enjoying it, and I'm enjoying giving this content to you. I hope this finds everybody well. I hope this finds everybody safe, and I'll talk to you next week as we break down yet another episode. This is Energon Entries. The opinions and viewpoints expressed on Energon Entries are those of Matt Frates and his guests, and not necessarily those of the Matty Ice Media Network. Energon Entries is exclusively owned by Matt Frates and is brought to you by the Matty Ice Media Network.